Hello and good evening. How are we doing today, this fine Tuesday evening? This is YAA'S from Edmonton, Canada, and it's Auntie YAA'S Book Corner. Today we have Practical Nyamesem. Before I pull that up, let me tell you. So on this platform, we do lives from my second book, The Beauty of a Woman's Heart, that you saw in the video. We do that on Sundays. I do that with my co-host, Mrs. Boatma Russell. And then on Thursdays, I do a short passage from that same book. And Tuesdays, which is today, I do Practical Nyamesem. That happens every second Tuesday. It's been a while with the vacation and all that. So this is my first program in some weeks, I believe. So here we are. And before I begin, I started sharing, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to share to some groups, and then I'll come back and we can start, okay? All right, so I trust your day went well. Hey, today is the last day of the month of August. As well, it happens to be my parents' wedding anniversary. My father's passed on, but today would have been their 64th wedding anniversary. My goodness, that is a lot of years. So yeah, and his birthday was last week on the 26th. So it's always, it's funny how hard it is when, how do I put it? When you have a loved one pass away, you think that the pain will never go away, but the pain does go away. The memories are still there. You are left with the memories. And what we're going to talk about relates, he's part of it. Just, his death was a determining factor of why, but I'll explain. I won't give it away. So, yeah, I'm hoping that I've shared to everywhere that I'm supposed to share to. Okay, give me a sec. Let me just double check something because I'm not really sure that I did this. Okay, yeah. So, the experiences that we have in life and how we handle them. So, yeah, I think I did, Wow. Okay, and let me see that I've shared to my I shared to my wall. That was the first thing that I did. I used to forget to do that. Now it's the very first thing that I do when I come on. So let me put the book link up, and then I'm very pleased to tell you about an interactive Zoom event coming soon with The Beauty of a Woman's Heart. I encourage you to get your copy of this inspiring book on Amazon so that you can participate. The date will be announced in due course. Sorry about that. It seems that any time that I start my book lives, that is when it gets the loudest in my house. So let me pull up the banner for today. So today's topic is carrying the torch. Carrying the torch. You wonder what I mean by that. So let me go to my notes and let's start our conversation, shall we? And hopefully I do have my notes. Yeah. So we're going to have a hard conversation tonight. I say hard, it's one of those difficult ones, right? And my question is it important to pass your faith on to your children? If you're a person of faith, whichever faith that might be. With the world the way it is right now, it's important to have these conversations. Yes. I'm going to use myself as a case study, okay? Because the only story that you can tell is your own story. I was brought up with faith or in the faith. I say that to mean that not that I was a staunch Christian or a firm believer or anything like that. Where I grew up in Ghana, in West Africa, it was all around us. Hey, when we went to secondary school, high school is what we call it here. In the mornings, I was Catholic back then, so we'd go to the administration block. Our chapel was upstairs. Every morning, you went for mass before you went to eat breakfast in the dining hall and then proceed to go for your classes. On Sundays or any other occasions, you'd be found in church. So it was all around us. And also, it's like, even though it was all around me, I just never took it seriously. The thing is, anywhere you go, you hear gospel music, Christian music being played all around you. And on public transportations, the popular ones at the time, we called it trotro, you would see captions or inscriptions. And what do you call it? It would have Bible verses or whatever, anything to remind you, because of course, Ghana was, I say was, or is it still, a deep, a Christian, mainly a Christian country. So faith was all around us. But when I say all this, my mother has always been like in the faith, running from place to place, praying for us. And she would wish that her children would take it so seriously, but alas, we didn't. I wasn't really, it was around me, but I wasn't really immersed in it. So then I left and I came to Canada. And when I came, what I got told is that, well, I got to put it out there. When you go to church, because you are a Black person, people may not necessarily even come and sit near you. So I said, oh, okay. So there's racism too in the church. But that was not my main reason for not going. I just didn't go. I'd go to funerals, weddings, and things like that. But despite that, I'd always have this gnawing feeling inside me. So in those moments, I would pray, like maybe I'd pray Psalm 23 in my head. I knew where I had come from, but I just wasn't so deeply in it. Yes. So because Psalm 23, I learned it. It's in one of my books. I learned it off the top of my head because anytime I had to go take a transportation to go back to school, whether Unicampus or whatever, that's what my mom made me learn. So you pray that in your head as you were going back to campus. But my defining moment came about 26 years ago. Yes, my father passed away in 1995. That was the biggest shock of my life. You see, my father died at 62. I'm over 60 now. At the time, because of the way that we were brought up, we were so respectful. We viewed them as adults, so grown ups, all that. But now that I've grown up to that stage, I'm thinking, hey, I'm still quite young. That man died too early. You know why it was a shock? Because in those times, our grandparents were dying in their 70s, even mine were 80s, 90s. And then to have a young man in his prime of 62, just like that, it caused me to rethink a lot of things. It was a shock to my system. I'm like, wow, what happened there? I was just 35. So when I came back, I came and picked up my faith. In my language tree, they say Sankofa, just going back to pick it up. I've always had it. I just didn't value it, or I just didn't do anything with it. But it became, all of a sudden, it took on some importance. In my grief, I had to fall back on my faith. So for me, my daughters have always been in church. Nana was 3 when I started. She was 3 when my father passed away. Adra was born 2 years later. My son was older, and I brought him to Canada after I came back from my dad's funeral. I brought him at the same time. But the thing is, I remember going to visit in Ghana, and I would see him iron his clothes. We live in North Carnation and run to go to Assemblies of God, to go to church. And then he comes here, and it's like, he doesn't go to church on any, he's gone sometimes, but it's not on any consistent, not with any consistent pattern per se. But they all know, just like me, it was inside me. The seed was sown, but I just was not doing anything with it. Yes. But at this time, I like to say to myself that I believe that, yes, I have passed my faith on to my children. Now, I have you know that raising children in the diaspora is not an easy thing. And raising children is not like, it's not the same things like how our parents raised us. I think the values were more firm and more valued. These days, it's anything goes. I see the chaos and the moral decay and all kinds of things that young people get up to sometimes. Not all of them, but we hear the stories, right? And I do know, I said before, a family member, I never understood what she meant. She says, do not judge or condemn anybody's child till yours is 18. In Canada, 18 is an adulthood. So if you're able to navigate the ups and downs and the turbulent moments and the turmoils of raising a child in this environment till 18th, and then they get to go on their own and they are okay, then you thank God or you thank your lucky stars. But so for me, it was easy for me to take them to church. They would come with you. So you forget that they are in that stage when they are young. You are able to talk to them. You have control. You are in charge. But as they get older, they start to question things. It's not to say that they've walked away from their faith, but there's certain things, just genuine questions. And maybe sometimes they experience some doubt, so they want to clarify things. But we don't go for that in our culture. People will say that, oh, I remember this woman. She and her children, they used to go to church all the time. What are you telling me? Oh, there's days that they may not go. Yes, it happens because you have people who are students. They've been students. Maybe there's too much work. Exams are coming. They'll say, well, today I can't go. Or you see somebody with their hair out. They've gone and bought hair. They are coming to braid their hair. You know that the hair is not going to be done in time enough for church. Or somebody came from a morning shift the day before, the night before. So the next day, the Monday, they are having to go in for a morning shift. So they need to turn their patterns around. What I'm trying to say is that you've been with the children, you've nurtured them in the faith, but they come to that point where they're adults now. Can you force them? No, you can't. If they say, I can't go to church today, are you going to barrel them, bind them, and throw them in the car? No, you can't. Hello, Amajo. How are you? Biker woman. So you can't, yes. And it's not to say that, and they have their doubts. Sometimes they do get far away from God, but they know they'll question certain things. And you have to be able to explain, or if you don't have answers, you tell them the truth. But I do know that with us in our environment, we have this very harsh, we judge people a lot. We use Christianity, hello. We use Christianity to judge people and we condemn people. But we need to understand that if you're going to be a believer or a Christian, you will have, if you don't have doubts, then there's a problem, because the doubts helps you to ask people questions, clarify, and then it helps you to grow deeper in your faith. It's one of two things. Either you become disillusioned and you walk away, or you press in further. So I've always heard about young people, even, you hear this thing around that. Hello, message. Welcome. When people go to college, they forget their faith, or even I've heard of young people preferring going to church on campus than coming home to the Ghanaian community churches because they don't feel they fit in anywhere. Yes, because when they didn't grow up in the environment we grew up in, they've grown up here. So they don't understand all the yelling and crying and praying about witches and whatever is going on back home, they relate to. So they can't wait to get away from home after holidays and go back to their churches. For me, for my daughters, it became, we say we are all Ghanaians, I have to put it out there. It became a question of those who were born here and those who were born in Ghana. So the most that they heard from adults, oh, do you speak Twi? And then, those kind of comments. But if you want, this is where, this is where the church environment, we need to watch some of these things. We need to find a way to engage with the younger people. So my daughters would always say, I wish to God people would have something more to say after the tree. It became the tree factor for them. Don't you want to get to know who they are and have a conversation with them? So we say we are Ghanaians, we say we are one people, and yet we do these things, we divide each other up. And I don't know what it is, whether is it that inferiority complex, like I don't know. And usually even my daughters have told me people want to project that kids raised in this environment are spoiled and they get into trouble. She goes, but Mom, it's those who are older and they come and do all kinds of things. We are here, we've seen everything. So it's not, we are not enamored with, oh, here's clothes, here's this, here's that. We see it every day, it doesn't matter. But when you come over, it's like, oh, wow. And then you start to become something else. Anyway, I digress. So today we're talking about carrying the torch. I'm talking about, I'll get to the question in a minute, like passing your faith on to your children. And I was saying that, for me, like I'm saying that when my children were younger, I used to be able to just bundle them, take them to church, this and that. I had explained earlier that I myself, I wasn't really very serious about my faith till a defining moment in my life. My father passed away. He would have been 88 on August 26th, which was just last week. And he passed away on August 13th. And it happens to be one of my sister's birthdays. So I always go, my gosh, this man, you bring a human being onto this earth on that day, and that is the day you chose to leave. So when he died, that was my defining moment. I went back to pick up my faith. But for the rest of the story, you can watch it from the beginning. We're not too far into it. It's just 17 minutes along. So I'm talking about the experience that I've had with my children, and they've always been in church. But now I find that they are adults. They are questioning things a lot more, or work schedules may not allow them to go. Amajo, your birthday is on the 28th. His birthday would have been on the 26th. So 2 days apart, yes. So, but he passed away on the 13th of August. So the thing about it is that, you have to allow them to walk their own journey of faith. Because a lot of us, we went to church because our parents went to church. And that's how I was till it hit me. My father's passing away was the greatest shock of my life. So I went back and I picked up my faith. Yes, I did an about 10, and that's here I am today. So yeah, you have to allow them to find their own way, but you just have to keep praying for them. And you should know too, but with us, right? When there's certain things that you see, if you see people doing something contrary to the accepted norms or values of our society, you should just see the way that people go and condemn them. To me, yes, the Bible tells us what is right and what is wrong. But if somebody chooses to live a particular lifestyle, don't go open your mouth on them, condemning them harshly, judging them, because what I say is that you don't know what is going to happen in your own family. Maybe one day a child of yours will come and say, hey, this, and what are you going to do? But we are so condemning. Even me sitting here saying that, look, my children used to be in church every Sunday, but now it's not every Sunday that they go because they are adults now. Sometimes somebody's come home from work the night before, something is going on, they are tired, they are sick, whatever. They are not 3-year-olds for you to bundle them up and throw in your car and say you have to go to church. You as a parent, you have to use wisdom, keep talking to them, advising them. They know. So back to my question. Is it important to pass your faith on to your children? Who will carry the torch? If you don't pass your faith on to your children, who is going to pass on the torch? Yes, I have a book. Sadly, I forgot to even bring it. It's on the table somewhere. So this man, like I bought his book and asked me if I even remember the title, but it's about what we're talking about, passing your faith on to your children. So he's taken passages from the Bible and he's written up, and then he does a prayer, and it's very, very powerful. Yes, it's very powerful. So are we to pass our, what do you call it? Are you carrying the torch? Who's going to carry the torch? I'm trying to find Deuteronomy chapter 6 to answer the question. So I'll read from Deuteronomy 4 to 13. It's so hard to flip through your Bibles when you're on a live, Okay, I'll use my phone after this, but I need to read this. So I'm doing Deuteronomy 4 to 13. So, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all of your soul, and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and your gates. When the Lord your God brings you into the land he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to give you a land with large, flourishing cities you did not build, houses filled with all kinds of good things you did not provide, wells you did not dig, and vineyards and olive groves you did not plant, then when you eat and are satisfied, be careful that you do not forget the Lord who brought you out of the land out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. Fear the Lord your God, serve him only, and take your oaths in his name. So that was the advice. God had a covenant with his people, the people of Israel, and this is the advice he gave them. So they have to impress it, because if they didn't pass on their faith would die out. To me, it's very important. It's like I think about it. My maternal grandfather, my mom's father, was a Presbyterian minister. Yes, actually, my understanding is that I think he was the first African general manager of schools. So then you come into my mom's side of the family. Well, my mom, she was a lawyer, but when I came to Canada afterwards, I heard now she's a pastor. She went back and studied and became a pastor, right? Her youngest brother is also a pastor, and then another of the sisters. So that legacy of faith. And so from my mother's line, then you come to my generation, my sisters and I, my cousins, and that. You know the drill, what I'm talking about. Most of us are people of faith. And I wasn't so serious myself, but one time I heard a cousin of mine make this profound statement about my uncle's wife, who's passed on right now. And she said the auntie has said that, my parents were the one who prayed for me. They are not around anymore. So I need to pick it up and pray for myself, pray for my children. It stuck with me. It's very profound. And I know the way my mom, oh my gosh, she overdoes it sometimes, that I'll have to be honest about. Like you can't, like I said, with my kids, I can't open their heads and put it in. They know the drill. They are adults. If they say they can't go to church and you are going alone, are you going to beat them? What are you going to do? They are adults. In this environment, you don't push kids like that. Yes. So with myself, when I heard that, it stuck with me. And I always tell myself that I'm so happy that I've come to the faith and taken it seriously for myself. My mom is still alive, but God forbid one day she's not there, then you're going to wake up and say, hey, who's going to pray for me? My mom is not around. No, there's no pray for me, pray for me. You do it yourself. So basically, again, we're talking about carrying the torch, and we've read the foundational scripture from Deuteronomy 6, 4 to 13. So it said we're to teach them to our children, so we can't miss this. Yes, it was based on the covenant that they had with God, and they took it seriously. But you know them too, like I told my story, they went wandering all around, getting into all kinds of problems. So I'm just going to read some more scriptures just to confirm what the importance of carrying the torch. So Proverbs 7:13. I saw this recently. Hello. I wrote the scripture down wrong, but it was emphasizing. I think what I read was that you're making your shelter under God's umbrella, like for his protection. You have to know him. I'll go on to the next one because sometimes I come on, I'm writing things in a hurry and then I read over it, but then I come and it's something else. So, okay, so Proverbs 8:32 says, "Now then, my children, listen to me. Blessed are those who keep my ways. Listen to my instructions and be wise. Do not disregard it. Blessed are those who listen to me, daily, watching daily at my doors, waiting at my doorway. For those who find me find life and receive favor from the Lord. But those who fail to find me harm themselves. All who hate me love death." Someone may as well get up and say, "Are you telling me that so if I don't believe in God, then something is going to happen to me?" No, we are people of faith. We know what it's saying. And for me, the words in the Bible, they are true because everything, every aspect of our lives, most is covered in the Bible. So just basically simplified, you know, if you're telling me that I'm raising kids and I need to teach them a set of rules or foundations for their life, I would pick the Bible because it tells you about right and wrongs. And you have to read through, what do you call it, Proverbs. It's chock full of it. Everything under the sun is in there. So I'm just giving the examples. So now I'll go to Deuteronomy 5:29. Deuteronomy 5:29. Okay. It says, "Oh, that their hearts would be inclined to fear me and keep all my commands always, so that it might go well with them and their children forever." Okay. And then I think that another scripture is 3 John. Where are we? 3 John. So we are the end there. 3 John 1:4. Okay. It says, "I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in the truth." So as a parent, your faith is not just for you. You have a responsibility to teach it to the next generation. You have to carry the torch, pass it on so that they can pass it on. And the last verse that I'm going to read, that's just was one of my favorite. I always say everything is one of my favorite scriptures. They are all, I don't know, 54:13. It says, "All your children will be taught by the Lord, and great will be their peace." When you are taught by the Lord, you have peace. Because when you're going through, he didn't say that because you know him, your life is going to be tiggity boo, hunky dory, no problems. No. When you're a believer, that's when you even face the most challenges, I tell you. So, but you know that his word here is chock full of wisdom and comfort. So you go to it. You always have a point of reference and say, "Oh, I'm going through this situation." Yes, after and that's me, and I'm sure any number of people, we tend to be flapping around when we are in a wilderness season, talking to people instead of going to the word and saying, "Hey," but after when you become to your senses and you become aware of it and you go read a passage, then it comforts your soul. You pray and then maybe you might go seek some wise counsel. I've always said that you need to tell your stuff to people who are mature enough to be able to handle it. Sadly, in our environments, when you put your information out there, people use it to judge you harshly. They don't even know you that well. They think they know you and they use it to judge you. Let's not beat each other over the head with the Bible. That is not what God wants us to do. The basic tenet of our Christian faith is love. And we've missed the boat on that. So we condemn people a lot. Meanwhile, we are not so perfect ourselves. So we just need to remember, right? We shouldn't be clashing symbols. You have to show love to people. Yes. So, in conclusion, all that I can say is that you continue to pray for your children. Even if they dare walk away from their faith, you continue to pray for them. I remember when I was in one of our churches, the first one that I was in, and there was a minister, a Canadian minister, who'd come every so often and do services. And I remember him saying that his son was not in the faith, and it was a deep burden for him that he said they were praying for him. But as he was standing on the pulpit saying that and me hearing it, all I said to myself, like I had great sympathy, I said, oh, I can relate. But in this environment, they are more, somebody will say that, oh, well, maybe they are too flexible, too easygoing, but they are more open-minded about things. So his son is not in church. It's a burden for him. He talks openly about it. But as, Osofoba doesn't go to church. Hey, Osofoba, they are all bad kids. They are this, they are that. The condemnation is massive. It is massive. The condemnation is just massive, and it's so unfortunate. Like, you are not God. You did not write the Bible. You are also trying to live out your faith. So carrying the torch is not even only about just handing it over to our children, but we need to make sure that we're handing over the right thing, because the hypocrisy and, knowing one thing but doing the other thing, I'm guilty of it. We're all so hypocritical, and we are not perfect. We are not. We are not. We need to, you see, a lot of times we come across like we have no sin. Every sin is a sin. So you have to always examine yourself carefully before you go talk about somebody else's business. But we don't tend to do that. We are swift with our condemnation, and we sit on our holy horses, holy righteous horses, judging people. But we can't do that. Like, we can't. No, we can't. Yes, so, your children, if you are raising children in the diaspora, because nobody told me, you think, oh, whoop, I'm lucky, I've made it past the 18th. But they don't tell you that young adulthood also has its sets of, challenges that you'll meet. And for me, my concern is, and I laugh because I say, I guess I'm back where my mom is. I'm not saying, and I don't even care if people feel that if that's what people pick about. I'm not saying my children have stopped going to church. I'm just saying that they are adults now. Sometimes things happen today, they feel like it, tomorrow they won't feel like it. They go. In fact, to tell you the truth, where did I write it? For me, my time of walking away, I think probably from ages 20 up to the 35. That's a whole span of 15 years. That I knew about God. Yeah, I went to church, this and that, but I wasn't so serious about anything about going to church consistently. No. So look at that timelines. My daughters are doing better than I am because they've been in church all their life. Now they are in their 20s. It's like, oh, okay, I have this appointment. This is going on. Work consideration, this and that. I can't go. That is what I'm talking about. So they have done better than I did because they've been consistent. They started from childhood. Nana started from 3 up to now. Adwa was born in church. So we as parents, we have to keep praying, keep talking to them, making allowances for them, but don't push them. You can't force it on people. My mom is of that forcing generation. Hey, this, hey, that. No, you can't. If you're a parent and you're a praying parent, you pray hard, pray for them. They'll stay in it because they know too that one day they'll also be raising kids. What values are you going to teach them? That's the important question that I'm trying to answer here. I found it interesting when I thought about coming to talk about this topic because I said to myself, wow, I didn't realize that this would be a challenge. And even then, it comes to the factor that they are adults. They can, oh, hello, Apostle. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Even at all, to they are adults, so they can decide that they don't even want to go to your church. They want to go somewhere else, and you have to leave them to make their choices. The thing is, in the worst case scenario, even the prodigal son walked away. He did come back. The father had compassion on them. So what I'm saying in conclusion is that, you have to keep praying for your children. Just keep praying for them. It's something. Oh, thank you. It's something, thank you so much. It's something that you have to keep doing. You can't say that you won't do it. You have to keep doing it. You have to keep doing it. For me now, there were times, like I lured myself into this scenario of, oh, my mom is the one praying for me, oh, this and that, being lazy. Then I thought, you know what? You got to pick it up. You got to pick it up yourself. My mom is in her 80s. And, we all know, and this is practical, Nyamesem, the practical aspect of it is that she's not going to be around forever and ever. One day she won't be there. And then what? So for me, my faith, I've always said that my faith is non-negotiable. I got the memo, and I'm glad that I got the memo while she's still alive. And even now, I don't go to her for anything. I do my own thing. I'm praying. I pray. My main concern now, my children and my grandchildren, I keep praying for them. I keep praying for them, talking to them, praying for them, talking to them. So I'm saying that even if they dare walk away from their faith, your children, know that through your prayers, one day they'll come back to faith. I am here today because of the power of a praying mother. So to conclude, I'll leave you with Proverbs 22, 6. So let me find it. I know we say it so easily, but when I relate it to myself, usually I read New King James, but I like the NIV version. It says, start children off on the way they should go. And even when they are old, they will not turn from it. So to me, when I read this, I can read it and interpret it that, oh, I've taught my children about God, so I've taught them they are walking in it. No, I wasn't always in it. I was taught. It was around me when I was growing up. Even in secondary school, I did Bible knowledge. And even as a child, now I remember my dad had bought us, the classic children's Bible with all those pictures. So where I work now, there's a co-worker. She works out of our Calgary office now. And I know, like, me, I was the quiet Christian type. People know you're a believer, but you are quiet. But those who are bold and they're out there talking and saying their things. So I'll be talking to this lady, and I said to her, I said, you know what? Anytime that I go to read a Bible passage, I remember those pictures. I do. I always remember those pictures. So if you say Jephthah's daughter, I always see the daughter jumping up in the air with her heels clanging, her whatever she was clapping, right? Or when the 12 men who went to search out, scope out the was it Canaan or I'm mixing my stories up, but they came back with the produce of the land. Or if you talk about the Red Sea and the Egyptians going through, you see Moses. I always remember these pictures in my mind. So it's something that was sown in me from childhood. And how old am I right now? But I still remember. Even there was a story about, I don't remember if it was Abimelech, somebody that a woman threw a millstone out of a tower and it cracked their skull. I'm like, look at that. Or even Jezebel and the dogs. Like, so that is like the once a seed is sown in you, nobody, unless you want to be taking it out, you just allow it to go. No one can come and take it out of you. You have to allow it to happen. So this is how I read it, that my children, they know. And lately there's been a sense of urgency. I keep talking to them. I keep bringing it up because I'm finding out things, certain revelations we don't take serious, or you're finding things out about yourself or spiritual things and this and that. You go, hey, be firm, stand firm, grow in because what else, who else are you going to depend on? Anything else that you're going to depend on, it comes at a cost. You're going to see a psychic, you're going to consult a voodoo, a juju, whatever. You pay for it in the end. Nothing is free. So I'd rather choose my God and read the word and let it feed my soul. So to me, I'm just saying that I'm leaving you with Proverbs 22, 6. Yes, your children, you've sown the seed. Sometimes we don't realize the value of it, like I didn't, and I was running around in my 20s. So then 35 years old, my father died, and I got the shock, and I came back myself. to it. But all throughout that time, sometimes I'll be there and it would hit me. I'm like, oh, not fear, but something would come in my spirit and I'll just be reciting Psalm 23, or I pray in my head, even though I wasn't seriously engaged in the faith. But we all have our journeys that we walk. My defining moment was when my father died. He was only 62, and that's what brought me back to the faith. When I went to Ghana, went to his funeral and came back, I looked around me. I brought my son. He was probably about 16 at the time. Here was my 3-year-old. The third child wasn't born yet. And I'm looking, I'm like, if I'm going to raise them, I'm raising them in this environment, I better go back to God. And that's what I did. So I'm carrying my torch and I'm praying that they will also pass it on. It's a generational thing. And for me, I know because I saw it. I have a covenant with God and it will not pass by my children. So I continue to pray. So yes, I came to share my insights. If you're a person of faith, or even if you are and you've walked away or something is going on with you, you are in a wilderness season, I hope that you take something from this and find your way back. Your journey, you need to find people who have wise counsel, can advise you, not condemn you. Because for me, I've seen enough of the condemnation factor that I don't want to do. It's not to say let's do loosey-goosey Nyamesem. That's not what I'm talking about. But our brand of Christianity that we beat people over the head with the Bible, condemn them, and those show them love. No, everything starts from your own home. And I came here to talk about carrying the torch as it applies to my home, so you can listen and then also get something from it and check your own environment and see how you can better manage, your spiritual life. And it's not to say I'm telling you what to do. No, it's just take what you can from it. But for me, it's been quite the journey. And I didn't realize that when your kids get into the young adult season, it's a different ball game too altogether. So yes, we continue to pray for them. But yeah, they've always been in the things of God and they know the right things and they've always done it, but you still need to pray. I won't sit here and say my children are holy, they are this, they are that. A lot of us, especially our people, we are so, oh, as for me, my child won't do this. As for me, this. As for me, that. Even the simple things, children are children. I mean, they are young adults now. So you get the odd time. Yeah, they have their moments of whatever. Oh, I don't agree with this or that. And you have to allow them to express themselves. That is life. Yeah. But never cease praying for your children, because if the enemy does not get you, they always come after your children. And your children have the responsibility. You have to impart it to them so that they impart it to to their own generation. Just give me a second. There was a book I mentioned. I'm just going to check if I'll find it. Yes. Okay, I'm back. Good, I found it. Here it is. It says God's Promises for Children by Mike Shreve. It's a prayer devotional. So he takes the, what do you call it? The Bible verses, and then he writes a prayer for your children. So, yeah. And he's the one who, I read this and the importance of God wants to establish a righteous generation on the earth. So it's through us teaching our kids the tenets of our faith. That's how it gets passed on. So as a parent, you can't be lazy and just dress yourself up and go to church. I have a family member who used to laugh at me. Goes, hey, yeah, no, pack her children, go to church. But she refused to do that. We all have our choices that we make and then we live with it. So yes, thank you for taking the time to listen today. Have a blessed rest of the week. Okay. Shaila, Apostle Abba, Amajo, Miss Sage, and whoever else comes on after, Please leave us your comment. I appreciate you all coming to listen. God bless you so much. Thank you. Love you. I'll see you on Thursday for a book read. Thank you. Take care, okay? Bye-bye. Be safe.